Hi, it's Josie, and today I'd like to give you 5 tips to help keep you safe when you're riding your horse. Tip number 1 is keep your nose behind your belly button. When things are going pear-shaped, I ride a lot of young horses. I start horses under saddle, and in my first few rides I'm always reminding myself to keep my nose behind my belly button. And why do we do that? Because it's behind our centre of gravity, and if our horse takes off, see if I can get Rebel to do it. I'm sitting back here, sorry mate, so I don't get tossed forward. My centre of gravity is over his centre of gravity. If I'm leaning here, now my centre of gravity is not over his centre of gravity. If he takes off that way, where do you think I'm going? Kapoom, straight out the front door. It's called the ejector seat position when I see people leaning forward. And I have to tell you that if you do it, you may find that it's a bit of a reflex, because as human beings, when we get nervous and worried, we want to curl up into this position. And I think you'll find it's like a bit of an instinct to protect all of our vital organs. So you do need to, it's a thing that, well, I had to teach myself anyway, I couldn't just do it, but to put my nose behind my belly button. So if I was sitting down, if I'm riding down here and I'm finding that things are like Rebel feels like he's going to do something, I feel him get tense, the first thing I tell myself to do is nose behind the belly button, and I'll literally sit back. It has saved my life a lot of times, that one, and try not to be stiff in it, because when the horse takes off, if you're actually relaxed, you will go with him. If you're stiff, you'll bounce around and often get pinged out. Tip number 2, never, ever, 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 ever block your horse in front with both reins. I'm not going to do it. But if you're hanging on to both reins and you're pulling on them, your horse will more than likely feel like he's going to rear on his hind legs, stand up, because he's trapped and there's nowhere else for him to go except straight in the air. This is particularly with young green horses. When I'm teaching them to move off my legs, they'll often go forward there instead of sideways like Rebel does. And I have to say, no, shut the front door, because that's not where I want them to go. But you must do it very carefully. And I often just use squeezes of my ring finger. If I ever, it doesn't mean I won't close both. See, I can close both reins here. Rebel's learnt to go backwards when I do that. Good boy. But if you ever feel like your horse is threatening to rear, for goodness sakes, throw both reins at your horse, or at least throw one. I'll often give them one, because I'm usually trying to teach them something. But yes, if you block your horse in front, good chance they're going to stand on their hind legs. I think I'd rather a horse buck than rear. I truly do. When I was a child, because the horse reared and I was hanging onto the reins, I pulled it over on top of me, and it scared the living daylights out of me. So yeah, if your horse is going to rear, throw both reins, grab some mane if they go up, and try to lean forward and not pull on the reins. So tip number 2 brings us to tip number 3. Learn to disengage your horse's hindquarters. Learn to get him to turn his hindquarters like this. And why do we want to do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons we want to do that. A horse that is stepping across like that cannot rear, buck or bolt, because he doesn't have 2 hind legs on the ground to do that. Now you think about it. For him to rear, he needs 2 hind legs on the ground. For him to buck, he needs 2 hind legs on the ground, and for him to bolt, he needs 2 hind legs to push. So we teach our horse that for that reason. So if my horse was going to rear and I really thought he was going to do something, or even if I just thought that he was about to do something because I could feel the tension rising in him, I will just ask them to disengage their hindquarters. And you do it, guys, with You need a soft rein here. It's no good if they're pulling on your rein, but you teach them this on the ground before you ever do it under saddle. The other reason we like them to disengage their hindquarters is when they're in this shape, to put their inside. Now, disengaging their hindquarters is putting their inside, so the one that's on the hind leg that's on the inside of the bend, in front of the outside hind leg. No good if it's going behind, because I'll see if I can make Rebel do one behind. I don't know if I can. If it's going behind, the horse is straight, which makes him stiff. What we're looking for in disengaging the hindquarters is to soften the horse's body. He has to use that hind leg to step underneath his centre of gravity. He pushes his rib cage out of the way. He comes soft through the body, which will soften his mind. If he's really anxious, you teach them this and it helps them release their anxiety. So learn how to do that. If you're interested in this stuff, I do teach it in Basic Horse Training Academy, and there is a link in the description if you want to know more about that. So tip number 4 is learn how to do a one rein stop. Please learn how to do a one rein stop. One rein stops are an emergency break. They are only used in an emergency situation. It's not something that you should be doing every day with your horse, definitely not. You teach them this and then you save it for an emergency situation. And a one rein stop is exactly what it says. It's one rein only. You don't need the other rein. So basically, I'll get Rebel going, and I won't do a one rein stop on him, but I will show you video of one. So when the horse is going and something's happening, you literally just sit and bring your horse down to a stop with one rein like this. You don't pull on the outside rein, you don't need it. It's one rein only. So what it does is it disengages the horse's hindquarters. So if he's going to bolt off somewhere because he's had a fright, you would disengage his hindquarters. It also does exactly what I said before. It bends the horse down, it helps to soften him, it helps him to come back into his body, and it helps him to relax his mind. But again, it is something that we teach the horse before we need it. You can't just go and get on a horse that's never done one and do a one rein stop. It won't work. They won't understand what you're asking from them. It needs to become a reflex for you so that you can do it. I can ride the horses down the track and I'm on a long rein, and what I do is, if I'm like this and something happens, and it happens like a reflex for me. Rebel, can you just straighten your nose up, please? Whoops, thank you. Is before I even know it, I've lifted this rein up because I need to grab down there and bring this here. You don't do your one rein stop leaning forward to grab it. Why not? Think about tip number 1. Keep your nose behind your belly button. Okay, so you lift, grab, shorten without tipping your upper body forward. Thank you, good boy. I need to pat her and not be... There you go. There you go. There you go. Good girl. Now her heart's beating 1,000,000 miles an hour there. Good girl. You're all right. So I'm just holding her in this position until she relaxes. Good boy. And tip number 5, guys, to keep you safe, and this one I really want to reiterate to you. If you feel unsafe on your horse, get off. Don't let anyone tell you you're weak. Don't let anyone tell you you're letting the horse win. Get off your horse. Your safety is paramount. Get off your horse. There's multiple reasons that you might want to get off your horse. You might be trying to teach him something. He doesn't understand it. He gets upset. You need to get off. So a nervous rider will never make a horse calm, okay? If you're uptight, horses will pick it up and you're gonna make them worse. Get off, learn some groundwork, go on the ground, do a bit of groundwork with the horse, pop back on. Better still, learn how to train your horse what you're trying to do so you actually know what you're doing. I'm not being rude, you might, but I see a lot of people doing stuff and just with what they're doing, I know they have no idea. And if you don't know what you're doing, how does the horse know what you're doing? So that's my number 5 tip, and I want you to know that it's okay to get off your horse if you're feeling uncomfortable. I do. I break horses in or start horses under saddle for a living. If I'm on a young horse and he's had a few rides and it's not going right, I get off. Usually because the horse is confused, and so I get off and I explain to him what I want, and then I get back on. But no one can tell you that you're a wuss or that you're ruining your horse. Do not listen to them. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my 5 tips to keep you safe. I'd love for you to tell me in the comments which one's your favourite one. Which one's my favourite one? Probably the one rain stop, because seriously, that and keeping my nose behind my belly button have saved myself so many times. They are my faves. And that means that I get another day to train these beautiful horses. Thanks for watching.